don't know what went on there. We were on the wrong show and had the forum entry going. I'm your host tonight, Keith Plunkett. Welcome to the Transfer Agenda, not the forum. Bit of a nightmare start there, but we'll get over that. Transfer Agenda show, folks. We're not just going to do Liverpool. We said we'd do something different. We'd shake it up and we'd try something new because there's no new links really in Liverpool, one or two, so we will talk about them coming up. But we said tonight we try and get the perspective from other clubs, other fans, and see what their clubs are doing and how it's going. And we've got three interesting clubs to talk about tonight. We've got Matt Hayes joining us from giving us the Spurs view. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Some people might have seen it's been a good night so far for Spurs fans. I got Chris Brack starting in the comments already at me. He'll want to stop pretty soon. Well, I'm good though.
I don't know if that actually will get you anywhere in here, Matt, but I like it. I like the gumption. I like that you're going big at the start. That's allowed. Plenty to talk about from the Spurs front, Matt. I think it's all exciting. Or is it? We'll have to wait and see, I suppose, how it goes there. It's up in the air. We're going to talk about transfers, but you just have managerial stuff. And between the four of us, we're going to chat managers as well, because the managerial roundabout is just playing crazy at the moment, and what's going and who's going where. And Everton fans are bleeding despondent tonight with news that Carlos, after jacking them in, I don't know whether they were surprised. The fella never stays longer than 2 years anywhere. But we'll look into all that as well. I'm also delighted to be joined by Joe Wainman. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, Joe, but I cannot see any facial expression. So unless you've done the Botox thing, we can still hear you loud and clear.
Do you know what, my wife? I'm stuck on a different. I'm going to jump out and back in, okay?
Right, go on. That's fine. I was going to give you a big intro there, Joe, but you jump off and we'll come back to you when you get back in here. Oh, Jesus. Right. Joe's on a mad one. We'll right. Matt, have you moved there to your fan? Is that your fan going?
Oh, sorry.
That now, yeah.
Yeah, right. Good stuff. Anyway, after that, I'm delighted to be joined by Thomas Elliott from the Offside pod, is it, Tom?
The Offside Trap podcast.
The Offside Trap. I knew something about offside. And Tom, you're going to give us the Manchester United perspective on transfers. We had you on a couple of weeks ago. You've done a good job. We said we'd let you come back. And around these parts, we don't like Manchester United, but we said, why not? We'll give it a go. All's fair in love and war, and we said it's good to get the United views, because like I said about Spurs and other clubs, there's a lot of interesting chat around Manchester United, as there is every summer, about ins and outs, and it'll be interesting to hear what you think they need and what you think is likely that they will do. So we'll come on to all that. Joe, give us a wave there, will you?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, golden, lovely stuff. Joe's on top form. And like I was saying to the lads there, Joe, just look at the sort of, what you think Leeds will do, what you think Leeds need to do, and if you're, the names getting linked are impressed in and some out, because there's players there that could be linked with moves away, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off and we're going to look at, before we go on to the clubs, we look at the managerial stuff that's going on at the moment. And Matt, I'm going to start with you, because look, Spurs, we know the news now that Pochettino has said he wants to leave PSG. I don't think it's been granted yet, has it? Has he just asked that he wants out?
Yeah, there's a lot of reports coming out tonight that he's asked to leave, but there's also a lot of reports saying that it's not true. It seems to be the reports from every country except France are saying he wants to go, but in France it's a lot of PSG being adamant that he hasn't asked to leave and that he won't be granted any wish to leave if it does come down to that. But I think they're just they want a bit more money at Spurs, and Guillaume Balaguer, who's very close friends with Pochettino, said that if he wants to leave, he'll have to publicly say that he wants to leave, and I think that's what PSG are pushing him towards.
And is that the route you see it going down, like that Pochettino will? I know you're pretty much in the camp that you want Poch to come home. Do you see that happening? Do you think that's going to be the outcome from all this?
I think my heart is saying yeah, but my head is still a bit conscious that it may not happen. I think Poch he's not the type of man who he doesn't seem like the type of man who will come out and publicly denounce his relationship with the sporting director of a club who he had such good times with throughout his career. And I think even during his time at Spurs, he spoke well about PSG, and it always felt as though he was going to be the manager of that club at some stage. So I think it is a challenge, and perhaps something that Pochettino won't exactly want to do in coming out publicly. But I think that one of the first things that needs to be addressed is, I see even people in the comments there saying, why would he want to leave PSG for Spurs? And it's Spurs fans are asking the same question. It's all over Twitter, YouTube, any social media platform you can come across. And for me, I do think you need to look beyond the footballing reasons, because you can say PSG have a better squad than Spurs, they're going to win more trophies. That, on the face of it, is a situation, but his wife and son are still living in London. His son plays for Watford, his wife is still there, he still has his house in London, obviously. He's living in a hotel in Paris for the last 5 months. Right down to every single personal level, London is a better place for him, and he's spoken about how much he loves the city of London. So I think footballing reasons he stays at PSG, but every other reason I can think of, I think a route back to London is the way for him.
Is there a worry that it's not going to say a backward step for Spurs, but an unambitious move for Spurs, because he didn't leave there under the best of terms, did he? Like, it gone sour, and there was some sort of, was there falling out with Levy and himself? I heard that it's all sort of being patched up, but is it ever really patched up? He's going to go back to a Spurs team that's, we're going to talk about Harry Kane and where Harry Kane will end up, but if he was to go back to a Spurs team without Kane, and people would say, oh well, that's 100 million into the transfer kitty. I don't think selling Kane is to boost transfer funds. I think that's to pay for stadiums and also, like, what sort of squad will he be inheriting, and what will he be able to do? Like, what's the outlook at Spurs basically at the moment?
The outlook at Spurs is Poch or the Championship. It's the genuine mentality. Like, it looks like it could go very sour for Spurs, and I think if we don't get Poch, it obviously not the Championship, but it is the end. I think for Levy it's over. I think Kane, again, we'll touch on it later a bit more, but I think Kane stays regardless, because it's simply not his decision. There are reports saying that regardless of who the manager is, Kane will want to leave anyway, so Poch coming back won't really affect that. I do agree with you that if Kane does go, I can see a lot of that being reinvested back into the squad, which is why I'm not really taking these player plus cash offers from Manchester City too seriously. But there are also a lot of talks today, even Fabrizio Romano has alluded to it, that Spurs could be looking to bring in an executive director or a sporting director this summer to help Mauricio Pochettino. And the one thing we can all be sure of is, if Pochettino comes back, there will be assurances that he will have more power over transfers, more power over that sort of thing than he had in the past. And it's not going to be complete power, because Daniel Levy isn't going to allow that. But there will be more of an element of Poch being able to control that sort of stuff, and bringing in a director of football as well. I don't think we will need the type of funds that other clubs have to compete on that level. We just need to fine-tune our recruitment process, because we have shown in not too distant past that we can pick up very good players for very cheap. I mean, Christian Eriksen was only £12 million, even more recent Dele Alli for £5. So we do have the ability to do that, but for me, it is down to whether Pochettino is the next manager of Spurs, because Conte is an option as well, which I think is a good option, but not as good as bringing Mr. Pochettino home.
I think Conte would leave you absolutely ragdolled. Nobody in the squad would be talking to each other. I think it would be an absolute shit show if Antonio Conte went in there. But look, that's what my next question was going to be. Who are the other names in the hat? Like, because it seems to be a lot of fans. It's Poch or it's nothing. If I throw a name at you and get your opinion, Scott Parker. Scott Parker, yay or nay?
They literally,
absolutely
when you were saying it's Poch or Championship, the other managers that are linked are genuinely all in the Championship, or have just come from.
Well, they're not all in the Championship. Most of them are in the Championship. It's been the case for the last week or so that it's in the betting order. It's Poch, Conte, or Eric Ten Hag. Now, Romano said today Eric Ten Hag can be ruled out of the running. Conte, I feel, is, if Poch doesn't happen, I think it will be Conte. I do think we are looking at one of those two managers, and I think Daniel Levy would be both really clever and really stupid to go with Antonio Conte. And that sounds ridiculous, but he'll be clever in that it'll appease the fans in some way. Yeah. He can, say we're looking for a winner. We're not going for this big rebuild. We want to compete at that top level. But it'll also be stupid because we're going to be in this exact same situation in 2 years' time. And we may have an FA Cup, we may have a stinky Carling Cup there to have that, but when now we have that opportunity to bring in someone to rebuild. I've completely flipped my opinion on this lately, and it probably simply is because Pochettino's in the mix. But I think Conte is a very brave and bold sort of decision. But I do feel it'll end up in the same way as Jose Mourinho. And as for Eric Ten Hag, we went into talks with him a month ago, and we pulled out, and then Ajax extended his contract, which I think was bizarre, because at the time the options were Graham Potter, Roberto Martinez, Scott Parker, and Eric Ten Hag. He was the best of that bunch. I suppose it's worked out well for us in a way that Ten Hag is now Plan C. Well, up until today, when he's ruled out, he was Plan C. So I think we have really shifted the kind of type of manager we're looking for. Graham Potter is another one who we mentioned a lot, but he seems to be out of the running. I do think it is Potter Conte.
It's interesting, like with Ancelotti going to Real Madrid. Thomas, I'll come to you on this. Ancelotti goes to Real Madrid today, and it does sort of limit the number of teams that Conte could end up at, because the reality is Conte, he is a good manager, but I'm not a fan of, he goes in and he does sort of, he leaves places in a bleed shit show when he goes in there. But he's a good manager and he does get results. And it's not a dig at Matt, it's not a dig at Spurs, but you see them linking now. I'm not saying Matt is linking with Zidane, but I did see a lot of the stuff coming out when the Pochettino news broke. Out TalkSport were on last week, and they were trying to link Zidane and Conte and all these guys with the Spurs job. Is that level of manager too high for Spurs? And like I said, Matt, it's not a dig at Spurs. You're then looking at your Graham Potters and your Scott Parkers and all these guys. Where do you see Spurs going with this one, Tom?
Do you know what? I think if you're looking at Conte, I mean, you may as well have kept Mourinho. He's basically does a very similar job. He's going to demand a lot of money, which Spurs are not going to have. Even if they sell Harry Kane, look what Levy done with the Gareth Bale money. He squandered it on 8 or 9 players. So I genuinely don't see what Conte is going to bring to Spurs, if even he wants to come. You know what I mean? Do you want to go into the UEFA Europa Conference League with that Spurs squad? They're starting back, 4 weeks early? Something ridiculous like that. It's a nightmare for Tottenham. Obviously, Ancelotti's gone to Everton, but Zidane, there's no chance Zidane is going to want to leave Real Madrid to go to Spurs. With no disrespect to them, but why would he? That way, I don't know what Zidane really is looking at towards career prospects, but for Spurs, I really don't see an alternative other than Poch, that way at the moment. And it as you said, Matt, it's probably just more of a crowd pleaser than anything. We've Pochettino back, played the best football we've played probably in the last 15 years under Pochettino, the best squad. But they just need a revamp. With what money, I don't know, Keto.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Because, like I said, I agree. I think Conte will look for money to build, exactly like Mourinho. I think Pochettino going back in there will be like, what's really changed since he left? There's a lot of the same players out there, but he'd be down Harry Kane, or he'd be down, some of them had moved on. Some of the experienced pros had gone that were there.
Keito, actually, as well. Sorry, just, Steven Gerrard's not a bad show. You know what I mean? It's a job that you could see him coming in. Is that massive pressure? Well, not really, because they couldn't really be lower right now. You know what I mean? He could go in and do a good job. Like, it could be a bit too soon. Maybe he doesn't want to manage anyone else other than Liverpool. But I don't know. I just wouldn't rule Gerrard out getting a job like that,
He was linked with the Ev earlier on tonight, so
that's never going to happen.
Be interesting to see where he goes with that. But it's an interesting one, Joe, isn't it? Because like the managers that are out there and the jobs that are out there, you've got like Celtic, right? Let's throw them into the hat because they're a traditional big club, but the reality is they're not shopping at the same supermarket as these Premier League clubs. But you've also got the likes of Crystal Palace now are looking for a new manager, and any other teams that are going to be in that mix. You have relative stability there at Leeds, and a thing I wanted to say to you that the lads had touched on there. Spurs looking to bring in a director of football. Manchester United linked for years with a director of football, and people saying, they need to get that conduit between manager and board in there. Leeds have got that structure in, haven't they? And they've got one of the best in the business, are they? And it's a model that's done used very well over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been amazing, man. Victor Orta he's just amazing. Like, he spent time at Sevilla. And a number of other clubs, then came to England at Middlesbrough, didn't go too well. And then when he came to Leeds, his initial first season wasn't great, but I think that was more so the remit. Like, we had the club was in disarray, we had no under 23s, season just gone, we won the Premier League Division 2, we've been promoted, you know, so it just gives you an idea of what he's done, and it does work. It clearly works, because look at some of the fines that he's had at Leeds United, you know, the likes of Raphinha, what we paid for Llorente, you know, Raphinha 17 million. I know everyone keeps asking in the chat, and no doubt we'll speak about him a little bit later on. I think hearing of a recent Victor Orta interview, like, I think he was saying, you know, he said like how having that there, maybe a manager doesn't have the capability on their own, or the chairman, Levy or whatever, to be able to scour the scouting network that the director of football has, and has the time, you know. And he actually spoke and said, you know, no longer do clubs look at the Euros or the World Cup for players, because, and he spoke about the time like Diop, Diouf, when they had that great season time with Senegal, and everyone was right, let's just buy them, you know. Liverpool got a few of them, and he said, I'd actually now go to an under-21s tournament, and if I wasn't aware of a certain player, then one of the scouts would be getting the sack. And what he means by that is we should already have lists and lists and lists and lists of players before. And he says, we'll start with 20. He's speaking about the processing, and now he said he's got about 2 or 3 for each position. He presents them to Bielsa, which one? And then it's a case of which one of them 3 are then available. Like Raphinha was offered early doors, wasn't available. We looked elsewhere. Then all of a sudden, Ren came back. Yes, he's available. Right, boom. So he said it's like there's 2 sides to the coin. The technical side's done, i.e. watching the videos, going to watch the players. All that's 100% done. The other side of it is who's available, how much can we pay for them, etc., etc. But having that, for me, well, it's worked wonders at my football club anyway. So I would, if anyone can have that, as long as it's the right man. Like, at the end of the day, Victor Orta was approached by Roma, turned them down to stay at little old Leeds, you know, because it is just really like this. And it's amazing to think the 16 years that we've had where we're at now as a football club, like you saying to me, you're actually quite stable, and we've got Manchester United and Spurs, and that shouldn't be the case after our 16-year hiatus, but it is, and that's why it's amazing to be a Leeds fan again at the minute, because it's been a long 16 years, but we are proper stable now, and it's just nothing's going wrong at the minute, and long may it continue.
But it's a great point.
Just to jump in there, Keith, are you only as stable, Joe, do you think, as long as Bielsa is there? Like, it's 1-year contracts he's getting, do you know what I mean? Is he the linchpin, or what do you reckon?
No, I think, like I say, from Radrizzani, Angus Kinnear, Orta and Bielsa, I think they already have contingency plans for who that next man's going to be. It'll never be... I always think about Stoke when they tried to switch it up and they brought in Mark Hughes, and now look where they are. I think the next man that comes in will be of that ilk. I know they've been a fan of Steven Gerrard in the past. I know they like Gabriel Heinze. So they'll go down that similar sort of route. I would hope so anyway. The guy that's at the top actually cares about the football club, if that makes sense. You get that sense, you know, they're improving infrastructure in Leeds. Do you know what I mean? They're doing things for the city and stuff. So I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, it's a good point, Tom. You know, Bielsa, and I'm a huge fan of Marcelo Bielsa. I've been on Joe's show before talking about him. And he having that identity and having that, you know, from whether it is Bielsa has his own way of playing. We all know that he's a unique manager, a unique coach. He sets his teams up in a unique way. But Leeds are not going to move away from that, and they're not going to a point, you know, I can't see any situation where Leeds are in 16th in Christmas and they're looking for Big Sam. Do you know what I mean? There's no way, there's no world that's happening if it doesn't work out with Bielsa. And I think the only way now is Bielsa walks away, because, you know, at this stage, he looks settled there. You know, he doesn't look like he's going to implode. He doesn't look like there's going to be any... He's not going to reinvent the wheel there. He has a settled team. He has a good squad. He has a good setup. So I think it'll be Bielsa walking away because he probably feels he can do all he can do. And then it will be a Heinze or someone along those lines will come in of the similar mould and will work under the model that's already in place. And it brings that stability, and it brings that know-how that the club can work and operate as one, because there's so many clubs in the league that just don't do it, Big clubs, look at Arsenal. I think Arsenal are one of the worst run clubs of late in England and Europe, because there's no cohesion anywhere in that club. It's just madness. But look, enough
it's a move for Poch to go with it. He comes back to England for Spurs, then Bielsa goes and takes his rightful place as Bielsa's heir at a big club. Isn't that right, Matt? You know what I mean?
Go. the master and the apprentice, that's it.
Do you know what? I said it when Poch left Spurs, that if he didn't get a job, I could see him succeeding Bielsa at Leeds. I've actually said that before. Not now. He's coming home now, but it was a possibility there for a bit.
We'll see. Stewie Mack puts a good point in. Gallardo could be a good shout at Leeds as well. Gallardo's a great coach at River Plate. I'm a huge fan of him. But it will be, I think, as you said, of that type. So before we move on and talk about transfers and rumours and what you want to see with the clubs going forward in the transfer market, lads, we've been running quizzes, little competitions, and not quizzes, just little competition. We're calling it Winners Week this week on the Daytrippers. And we're going to be giving away some prizes. So first off the bat, right, we're going to go for a prize for a t-shirt from our website. We've recently launched merch on the website. All good gear. So for someone to win a t-shirt of their choice from that, we've asked Joe a question. Now, Joe's question was how many goals that Tony Yeboah scored for Leeds, and the correct answer was 24. But what we want to know is what you think Joe guessed. What was Joe's guess at Yeboah's all-comp goal for Leeds while he was there? So the correct answer was 24. So if you start firing in the comments, Joe, you obviously know what you've said. If you see the correct answer coming in, give me a shout out. I'll be looking as well, but sometimes these tend to fly in now. Look, they're already coming in. So if you see anybody with the correct answer, just let me know the name and we'll get it up there. And we're going to be doing some more of these
LUFC
later on.
LUFC 10:26 p.m.
Is this your burner?
No, that's what I mean. But obviously, this guy's coming over to watch me and knows I know my stuff.
Right, hold on. Let me find it.
It was one of the first ones. I can't believe people doubted me.
This is what you get for having so many viewers. You can't find the comment.
Well, no, that's what happened. They flew off. So LUFC, the correct answer, of course, was 24, because Joe obviously knows the stuff about Leeds, or he had Alexa on beside him and he said, how many goals did Tony Yeboah get for Leeds? Either or. That was the correct answer. So LUFC, we'll remember that. LUFC, you win, I don't know how beneficial this is going to be.
This Trippers t-shirt, yeah.
You win a Liverpool team t-shirt, but who knows? We've plenty of stuff there for you to choose from. So what we'll do, LUFC, if you email the Daytrippers at the end of the show at the lfcdaytrippers@gmail.com, give us your details and we'll get in contact with you with that. So look, let us know. And I'm sure there'll be something that you can find on there. So lads, that's the first bit of the competition out of the way. And we're going to move on now to talking about the planned ins and outs of the summer. And Matt, I'm going to come back to you. Mm-hmm. Because, right, you've got a new manager likely to come in. What is the funds like at Spurs at the moment? Because I see red flags all over the place at Spurs. I watched that All or Nothing. I only rewatched it the other day with Spurs. And the thing that jumped out at me with that was when they found out about the pandemic, Daniel Levy was only interested in the financial aspect. And I think the commercial thing was saying, but what about the sickness and the player? He was only, this hits us hard in the pocket. A £1 billion stadium they've built. And, what do you do? Is there money there for players? Or is transfer stuff in Spurs going to be quiet this season? Or is it going to be busy, do you think?
I think it's going to be extremely busy, but for all the wrong reasons, because what we've been hearing the whole way through since probably February or March is that Spurs need to sell to buy, which is obviously a really, really bad start. You know, there's a lot of players that'll be on their way out. Sergio Aurier and Musa Sissoko have already publicly spoken about their desire to leave. You know, we don't know whether Gareth Bale will be here next season. That could be £220,000 off the wage budget. Hugo Lloris has refused to comment on his future. Toby Alderweireld is aging and has almost been sold in the last couple of windows. You've Harry Kane potentially on the way out. The likes of Dele Alli and Harry Winks not really earning their place in the squad now. Ben Davis, his future is uncertain. Reguilon could go back to Real Madrid. The Spurs squad could be completely unrecognisable next season. And again, you know, not for the good reasons. On top of the stadium that needs to be repaid, we have a £175 million loan that we took out during the pandemic. Daniel Levy tried to furlough all the staff, and rightfully so, was absolutely slated for it. And he went back on that decision, took a £175 million loan out, and that has to be paid by next March. So financially, the club are not in a very, very good position at all. But you would hope that perhaps by selling all those players, that we could raise a bit of money and hopefully get some astute signings in and around the place. I know you probably would have noticed watching All or Nothing, Steve Hitchen or Chief Scout. One of the first things he said in the show was, "I hate the transfer window," and he's our chief scout. He's the man whose job is to go out and buy players. It's not a very good start. Yeah, but look,
ideal.
Whoever the manager is, the first thing we have to do is get a centre back, because I'm sure, as everyone would have noticed last season, despite the fact that we had statistically one of the best defences in the league, it's a defence that took the opportunity to play attacking football away from us because it couldn't be trusted. And when you've Eric Dyer starting every week, questions do need to be asked. Now I think it's almost a done deal that we'll be getting Joachim Andersen, who was on loan at Fulham last season. He won't be going back to Lyon. It looks like he was fantastic. I mean, what is he, 24, 25 years of age, one season at the club, and he wore the captain's armband for quite a bit of it. I'm not sure how much that'll be in terms of price, but I can't imagine it'll be much more than 15, 20 million, because he couldn't get in that Lyon team when he was there. Another centre-back or two would be ideal. Milan Skriniar is one that we were looking at last summer, and Steve Hitchen. No, it's not. No, but no. See,
you need to set that bar a bit lower.
Yeah,
go back to Fulham. I don't think who partners Anderson at Fulham.
I don't think it will happen, but some Spurs fans.
Anderson, this is the thing, and I guess it is you have to reapportion where Spurs are as a club. But I know Anderson went in at Fulham and did a good job and got the captaincy and all that sort of stuff. But is he a Spurs centre back? Is he the one that you need? Do you know what I mean? Like, a Skriniar would be, but that's never going to happen now. You know what I mean? Whereas Anderson,
he's a leader.
The problem with he is a leader. It's a good point. But the problem I'd see with the Skriniar thing with the Anderson is that the prices. I mean, the French league is in such disarray, and I know Inter Milan are also, you know, that they're not in financially the best, but you know, the French league is going to be rich for the picking. So if you're looking at Skriniar, right, you're not going to get Skriniar for, I don't think you're getting for less than 50 million. Do you know what I mean? And Spurs aren't going to lay that out on a centre back. Whereas you might get Anderson for 15 or whatever. Is that's the first position you're going to look to fill, isn't it? A centre back.
First and second, you need two.
And second, jeez, who have you got there? Eric Dyer, Davinson Sanchez, Toby Alderweireld.
Then we've Joe Rodon, who can't get a look in at the moment, and Jaffet Tanganga. Tanganga, who could be the next Ledley King. He's been played out in right back. Yeah. Like, the man can cross the ball for his life, and he's been wasted. He was.
Your right backs are shocking as well, eh?
Oh God, our whole defence is. I mean, I'd be so happy to see the end of Sergio Aurier. Apparently, we're Romano was saying we're looking at Max Aarons, but basically one window isn't going to fix Spurs. One window, two windows, three windows. We need a whole lot more. But defence has to be the first place we address, because, as I'm sure you saw over last season, it is an absolute shambles.
So did you sell Foyth? Or is he out on loan?
No, he's on loan. But Villarreal, Villarreal have an option to make it permanent.
They have an option, do they? Oh, unlucky.
Yeah, it's only about 15 million as well. I mean, I'd take him back. He can play right back. He can play centre back. He can play in a three at the back. He never quite acclimatised to the Premier League. He got off to an awful start, and his debut against Wolves, he gave away 2 penalties. But I think he has the potential, and Pochettino was the one who brought him in and who worked a lot with him. So if that happens, that would be a good way for him. But I think Villarreal will trigger that clause, because he was brilliant for them.
Yeah, he's excellent. So versatile as well, isn't he? So you're looking at centre backs. Where else do you think they're going to need?
I'd say an attacking midfielder is a very good place to start. And look, again, Spurs fans are talking about the top targets. Marcel Sabitzer is one that's been mentioned. Now, he only has a year left on his contract, so I do think he will be on the move this summer. He was even asked by Jonathan Veal, the Spurs correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, on international duty, what his future is looking like. And he said, I'm not talking about it now. That's for when we get back to Leipzig after the Euros. So hopefully he'll be on the move. If he wants to move to the Premier League, which a lot of these European footballers do, I don't know how many of those top teams in the league will be looking for an attacking midfielder. Will the options be there for him? Maybe Spurs is a potential destination, but I really can't see it happening. I really think we're in a situation now where we'll be looking at the kind of Europa League teams to try and get players in. And it's I suppose the sad indictment of where we've gone in the last couple of years, but I do think an attacking midfielder is needed as well, because Dele Alli has fallen off the face of the earth. I wouldn't be surprised to see him move on.
Do you know
it's
what,
interesting,
Matt,
but with Pochettino going back. Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Sorry, Keith. I was just going to say, probably your point as well, man. With Poch going back, I mean, is he going to get the best out of Dele Alli? That could be like a new signing for Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but Dele's worst year was the last year under Pochettino. I think he had a bit of a revival when Jose came in. And look, I've always said about Ali, it was never going to work for him under Jose for two reasons. The first one is the style of play that Jose uses. It doesn't suit a ball-playing number 10 and a risk-taking playmaker, because I don't know if you know, we played Stoke in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, and Dele Alli, I think he started the game, and he was doing his usual game. He was playing his little fixer on the corner and all that. And at one stage in the second half, we were 2-0 up. He tried a little flick to Harry Kane. Stoke won the ball. It was like 16 seconds later, they scored. Jose whipped Ali off straight away, said in the post-match interview, we can't have that in our team. That's not good enough. He's cost us a goal. And you're kind of thinking, the player that he is in a Pochettino system, or in any sort of an attacking system, he tries 10 flicks around the corner to Harry Kane. One works. You focus on the one that's worked. But in a Jose team, you focus on the 9 that didn't work, because you might not get that 10th in the kind of aggressive style of football he plays. And then you're looking at the man management as well, because something Ali's had the whole way throughout his career. Even as a child, he had family issues. He was taken in by a friend, and his family, the father was a real father figure to him. You then go to MK Dons, he had Carl Robinson, a real father figure. You go to Spurs, he had Pochettino. He always, throughout his journey, had that manager to put his arm around his shoulder. Jose wasn't quite that man. So I think the fact that Ali kind of regressed even further under Jose isn't much of a surprise. But I don't know if it's just gone too far now, if his confidence is gone, if his talent is gone, because he hasn't played in so long, if it'll be easy for him to be revitalised under Pochettino. But look, if there's any man out there who could do it for him, I think Poch is the option. But I feel with the way he's been playing in the last month or two, he's been on the pitch, but he's not been great. I think Daniel Levy had him in the shop window.
Right. The one everyone's asking about now is Harry Kane. What do you think is going to happen there? I'll come to the lads now in a second as well for their thoughts on Spurs and what they need and what they think will happen. But Harry Kane, a lot of people saying that City are going to go big, Manchester United are going to go big. What happens with Kane? Do you think he stays? Do you think he moves?
There's a 0% chance he goes to Chelsea. There's maybe a 5% chance he goes to United. City is the only team I'm worried about. And honestly, if I had a choice right now, if I was told Harry Kane is 100% leaving Spurs, you can pick any club in the world for him to go to, I would choose Manchester City, because that man deserves every Premier League title he can get his hands on, every FA Cup, Carling Cup, Champions League.
Champions League? They haven't won a Champions League. You're joking?
Well, maybe not the Champions League, but the Premier League, because the way I'm looking at it, we are further behind City. Everyone is further behind City than any other team. And if we want to have a chance of competing for the top four, it's not City that we want to catch, it's Chelsea and United. So we want to make sure we're not strengthening them, but also, maybe giving Kane what he wants, because he's not going to leave England. Now, having said that, I don't think Kane gets his move, because the entire thing that he's on about, this entire story, is based on Harry Kane having a gentleman's agreement with Daniel Levy. And that is his first mistake, because he wanted to leave last summer. And Levy said, give us one more year and we'll let you go. He's had his year. He wants to go now. And there's some Spurs fans who are still denying it. I have no doubt in my mind Harry Kane wants to move to Manchester City. But he's 3 years left on his deal. Daniel Levy is going to ask for every single penny he can get for that man. And as much as you can look at top scorer, top assister, probably the best player in the Premier League this season, potentially worthy of the Player of the Year award, you also have to look at the fact that he's a 28-year-old with 3 years left on his contract and who misses 3-4 months every single season.
Yeah.
you do have to look at the investment side of things. And again, this may just be me telling myself these things to give me that bit of hope that he may stay. But I if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on Kane playing the Spurs next season. And I don't want that to happen, because I've said it the whole way through the season. If Kane wants to go, I want him to go, because he's given so much to this club. He's given the best part of his career to Tottenham, and nothing has been repaid to him. So if he goes, not one Spurs fan will begrudge him and would almost want him to get that move. But I think he's in a Spurs jersey next season.
I don't know. I wouldn't be as thankful if my main man was looking to go out with a rival like that. And look, whether you have to see City as a rival, because you can fall into a trap, and Liverpool done it for years. Playing for fourth, do you know what I mean? It's a dangerous game. You have to play for fourth, and you have to look, if you want to be at the top table, you have to look. If Spurs sell Harry Kane to Man City, you've seen it over the years when City were taking, from Arsenal, they take Adebayor, they take Nasri, they go in and take the best players. United go in and take Van Persie. You don't want to get to that club because it's a slippery slope, you know what I mean? But look, it's interesting because he's not going to move abroad, because he's chasing the Premier League goal scoring record, right? So we all know it's England, and we all know it's City. To me, it doesn't fit the City mould at all, because you're right, he's 28. He's got ankles that are made out of Ferrero Rocher, and he's going to cost north of 100 million, right? Now, Man City's record transfer fee is 63, I think, for Ruben Diaz. They spend ridiculous amounts of money, but they never break the bank. And if you're dealing with Daniel Levy, you're not getting a deal. You're not getting a bargain. Joe, we'll come to you on that. How do you see Kane's future? Where do you think Kane ends up? What do you think happens? And where would you feel would be the best fit for him?
Yeah, I've said this week, so to be honest, before the real strong links came out with City, I thought he was destined for Manchester United. I've said for a long time, if Alex Ferguson was still at Manchester United, Harry Kane would have been a Man United player seasons ago for me.
Yeah.
He's perfect for them. I think he's the missing piece of the jigsaw. I think, all right, the manager probably needs to get on his bike, if I'm being totally honest. I still can't believe he's there. That's just my opinion. As a Leeds fan, I'm happy he's still there. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it genuinely. It's crazy that he's not been moved on, especially with how many managers are available now, and where Manchester United are as a club. They could have their pick.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, and they still want to persist with this guy. It's mad. But for me, it'd be Manchester United, and I've, like I said, Fergie would already have him there. I think it's the final piece of the jigsaw. Him and Cavani, it would just be perfect, really, with the amount of game time that Cavani has. I've seen a lot of Manchester United fans saying, "Oh, Sancho's the one." Sancho, no, park that. Get Kane in the door. Manchester United might start winning things again. I'm pretty pronto. And I don't know with City, will they said they wouldn't enter a bidding war for Haaland, but the money you'd have to pay for Haaland isn't going to be too far away from what you'd have to pay for Kane.
Probably even less.
Yeah. So why are you going to, I don't know. I think Manchester United, we know they've spent silly money on big players before as well, and they've got coffers massive deep. So I don't know. I think that'd be the one for me if I was, but I don't know. Maybe he stays, like Matt says, it's a madness, but I think they do owe him that, man. I think for him to go to Levy and he said, look, they've tried Mourinho, it didn't work. They didn't win note. He's gone. Now let him move on. I think that's one thing. I remember the Ronaldo situation at Manchester United, and he gave them that year, and then they said, right, go on. Do you know what I mean? And it should be the same at Spurs, but like you say, will Levy? We don't think it will be, will he? I just don't want an unhappy Harry Kane going into the Euros, if I'm being totally honest, but he doesn't seem that kind of guy. I know you three won't be asked, but
couldn't give a shiny shite whether Harry Kane is happy in the Euros. No, indeed. Look, it's a big one for England, I think. You have a shooting chance at it, let's just say, and you do need your players forward, and because if Harry Kane goes in there, and as I say, his dodgy ankles give up, you're then looking at Calvert-Lewin, and I think that's a different prospect.
They left the best second choice at home, mate, at Ellen Road, didn't they? Let's be honest.
Paddy Bam didn't get a look in, still won't play for Ireland either. The fuck. It is what it is.
He deserves all that comes to him.
Militant stuff by Matt, I love it. But Thomas, I'll come to you now on the Harry Kane situation, like, because Joe, I think, is spot on with his analysis there. I think if Alex Ferguson's in charge of Man United, he goes to Spurs and he bullies them. Do you know what I mean? He tells Daniel Levy, I'm taking him off your hands. What's the price? 100 million. There's 80. Let's do a deal. Those days are gone. But do you see Kane at United, at City, at Spurs, Chelsea? Where do you see him?
It's a head rule in the heart, Keito. I can't see Kane wanting to go to United for the simple reason is that I think I disagree with Joe. I don't think he is the missing piece. I think United need about 4 other pieces to really compete with City. Don't get me wrong, if we signed him, he'd probably be the best signing we've made donkey's years, along with obviously Fernandes. I think, look, a lot of people in the comments saying, 80 million, 100 million. You know, Levy, as you said, Keith, he doesn't give him up for cheap. I think he's going to cost more than what people think. And you're talking 130, 140 million, something like that. Ridiculous amounts. 28-year-old, as you said, Matt. He's going to go to City. I don't think he's going to suit him. I think he's going to be like Ibrahimovic Mark II under Pep. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was at Tottenham. If I was Harry Kane, and I want to break Alan Shearer's record, as funny as it sounds, I stay with Spurs. Because I really don't think he's going to score as many goals as he will at Man City, the way they play. You only have to look at City centre-forwards. Look at Jesus, look at Aguero. Fair enough, they might score 18, 19 goals a season. Kane's whacking 25 to 30 a season at Spurs now. So I'd stay there if I want to break those records. But if he's a Van Persie type and he wants to go and win trophies, well, then it's Man City without a shadow of a doubt. But I'd love to see him at United. I agree with Joe. He has that aura of a Man United player. He looks like a Man United player. He acts like a Man United player. So I would love it. But yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. Solskjaer doesn't instill any player with confidence. Neither does Woodward. Neither does Darren Fletcher as technical director. And the Glazers don't either. So it's from the top down, they don't look like a very attractive option. Man City do. So yeah, head rule in the heart, unfortunately. He will go to City.
Interesting. Yeah, my take, I think he stays. I don't think City pay that money for him. I'd be surprised. I see City are linked with Jack Grealish and Harry Kane, and they're talking about 250 million. You know, that goes against everything City have done, you know, and I don't know if I can see it happening, but look, we'll wait and see what happens there. So, Matt, before we finish up, you think maybe a Joachim Anderson and Marcel Sabitzer you wouldn't mind seeing coming in the door? Anyone else, or would that be it if you kept everyone else? So if Kane was to stay, Lloris, let's say, is to stay, and all these, would you be happy with those two additions to your first 11 and build on that?
Yeah. I suppose if you want to slot Anderson beside Alderweireld, if he stays, I'd take that for a season. But God, we probably need a right back as well, Keith. Maybe
at that. Maybe 6 man if that's it. Game over, Spurs, man.
Joe, you could give us the Halifax Town squad, and Pacho get us top 6. All right, just you win. Yeah. No, add a right back to that, and it would be an acceptable window. Yeah.
No, well, look, we'll wait and see what happens, and you know, we'll do more of these as the summer goes on, as things happen and develop, and we'll see what the feelings are then, you know, because you'll have a manager in place and you'll have an idea. So yeah, we'll move on to someone else now, but before we do, we're going to go on to the next part of our quiz. Now, this is for entry into our PS5 competition, our giveaway. We've been doing this for the last few nights. Loads of people want to get entered into this, but the rules is the rules. So what we're going to do here, we've asked Matt. Teddy Sheringham has scored 97 goals for Spurs. What did Matt guess was his total? So it's same rules. Don't want anyone cry arson about being entered into the competition. Put your guess into the chat. The first one we see, Matt, you know your answer here. I do remember your answer. And the first one we see with the correct answer, we will call out, and they will go into the draw at the end of the week for the PS5. So just keep an eye there and let me know if you see anything. I'm looking at these guesses.
God, so many coming in. God,
they're flying in, rattling in. This is what happens. We missed some last night and all. So let's see. We'll just do a quick scour there. But if you see one there at all, none of them yet, no one yet. Right, that's cool. So you keep looking there, Matt, right? And if you see one, just call it out to me. Tell me who they are. So we're going to move on. I'm going to come to Joe now on Leeds, right? Joe, Leeds. It's a funny club. It's a funny. They've done well. They've done excellent. I predicted. I was on you guys on the old show, all Leeds TV at the start of the year after the Liverpool game the first day, and I predicted I think Leeds would have been solid, and they were a good team. They were a great team, great season. But when you're building a squad like Leeds' you know, it's going to be, I don't think stability in the playing staff will probably be like other clubs, maybe. You know, there's going to be moving players on, bigger teams. I'm not saying, you know, Leeds are a big team, but bigger teams are going to come in and look to pick the bones off you. And Leeds are going to look to bring in more gems. So what's the rumour mill there down at Elland Road? What's happening? What's the names getting bandied about?
Yeah, well, you bang on in terms of how Leeds look at it anyway. Like the director of football, the chairman, have said we want to follow the Leicester model. If we look at the Leicester model, they bring in Kane, they bring in Mahrez, they bring in Mcguire. They sell them on for top brass. They reinvest. You know, they bring in the kid. What's the kid? Raphinha, etc. You know, and it's just a constant. You know, and then they'll get to a stage where they don't have to sell the best players. You know, and I think that's the model we will follow. And obviously, when I think about that, obviously the main one on everyone's lips is Raphinha. He's the one, especially for Liverpool fans. I think it won't be this season. He won't move on. You know, he's come out and said as much. He enjoys it at Leeds. He's got a manager. You know, he says Leeds were the club that took a chance on him. There's no doubt with the talent that he's got that other clubs would have been looking at him. You know, we were speaking earlier about that scouting network. There'll have been a lot of big clubs like Liverpool, etc., probably already aware of him. It's just whether or not he can make that step up. He's now proved it at Leeds. Right, let's have a look at the kid, you know. But he said he's got a real affinity with the manager, with the playing staff, and obviously that he wants to play in front of the fans on a regular basis because we've really took a shine to him, as you can imagine. The thing is, like, I was really worried about Manchester United because obviously he's really, really good friends with Mr. Fernandes. Which is straight away a worry, you know, because you don't want him to go across there. But in the interview, which I weren't aware of, he also spoke about many friends at Liverpool. So he knows Alisson, and he said that when he got the move, the first person to call him was Firmino, because they're from the same neck of the woods. He knows Fabinho and stuff. So I know that's like only small things, but that can count for a lot sometimes when you're looking at a club and you've got, you know, these lads that play there. So there is that, and if he has another barnstormer of a season like he did this term, and we don't get European football, which I think we might, I know people might, but I remember being on this show right at the start when I was saying we'd finish top half and people were laughing at me, you know?
Sorry, can I say the right number is in there? Because Reggie was having a tough time trying to get people to stop putting it in. The right one is in there.
Hold on one sec.
Yeah.
We have the right guess in there, do we?
We do. I put it there in the live chat, but you know when the treadmill's going full speed, you jump on it and you go flying off. That's the way the chat was like. The thing was just gone. It was A_C_5814.
Okay, and what was the answer?
The answer was 68. Now, I was 30 off.
Yeah,
but I was 2 when he left Spurs. So.
Teddy Sheringham not played there for bleeding years, and you're guessing on 68. I thought 90 odd was low, and you're even going lower.
I was
like
kind
I
of
said,
highball, I was
I was
2 when he left. It's not my fault.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So we have got a winner there on that. It's A_C_58. Sounds like a bot, I'm not going to lie. It doesn't sound like a real person, this one. And again, Matt, this could be your burner. But if that person wants to contact us by email, lfcdaytrippers@gmail.com with their details, and we will put you in for the draw for the PS5 and FIFA at the end of the week. So anyway, back to Joe. Yeah. Where were we? Raphinha.
I can't remember. Matt so rudely cut me off there for the sake of the PS5.
Would you not do the same?
I'd have cut him off for the PS3, for fuck's sake.
No, yeah. So in other words, Raphinha's going nowhere this summer.
Yeah,
nowhere this summer. As for other outgoings, I'm not really worried. I think maybe in another season's time, Melier could be one for some top clubs. I think for such a young keeper, 21-year-old, broke the clean sheet record, so good with his feet. I think, like say, Lloris is moving on. It could be an option for someone. And again, we paid $5 million for that kid, and he's going to go to the top for me. So we will find gems. As for this season, in terms of bringing in, we need a left back. Alioski's done great, but he's not a left back. That's not his natural position. So we need a proper left back. We've been looking at the kid Parade from Brest, I think it is, and Tagliafico. So they seem to be the two names, which would just improve us massively. Because, like you say, you go from a lad who's a left winger, really not an amazing player, but if we can get a proper recognised, fully fledged left back in Tagliafico or Prad, then they're great signings for us. We need a midfielder. Nandez has been mentioned, a guy at Cagliari, he's been mentioned, and then Mateus Cunha, which I've seen a lot of Liverpool have been linked with. Yeah, this has come up, but I know as of yesterday we were the favourites with Sky Bet. I don't know if Liverpool have now entered the race, but he's at Hertha Berlin. All our wingers are left-footed. Regardless, we need a right-footed winger, if that makes sense. We don't have a right-footed winger, and Cunha gives us that. So it won't be cheap, but if we could get him, it'd be amazing to have Raphinha on one side, Cunha on the other. I think Rodrigo's really come into form towards the back end, so we don't need anyone up front. Bamford, Rodrigo are fine. We've got adequate KP cover now. There's a guy as well mentioned, Kent's one that's always linked, Ryan Kent. He's been linked since the Championship before he went to Rangers.
That's right, yeah.
50 million. And a guy called Noah Lang, who's at Club Brugge, was at Ajax.
He's a great player.
He looks, a really good player. But the only issue is, when he was at Ajax, he had issues with Ten Hag. I think it was he refused to do what Tadic had told him to do on the pitch, and Ten Hag can be seen shouting on, "Fucking do as you're told. This is our game, not your game." And then he was gone to Club Brugge, and he was videoed the other week singing about Jews to do with their rivals, and it was let's stay away from that guy, And Bielsa, if he has that type of attitude where it's more about him than the team, then it ain't going to work at Leeds United, because Pontus Jansson was arguably our best centre-back in the Championship, and he did one thing, not listen to Bielsa in that game against Villa, and he got moved straight on. So I think that's a matter. He looks really talented, but whether or not we'll move in. I mean, we were linked with that Yakuslu who was at West Brom as KP cover, but no, thank you. I don't want that.
He was really impressive with Celta Vigo.
Yeah, but nah.
Celta Vigo, that says it all.
Yeah, maybe for Spurs, maybe Joachim Anderson, another relegated player.
Right? Wow. Yeah, that's what this is about. Okay. Yeah, no, I just won't give my opinion in future. It's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll just sit back here in the relegation zone. I'll let you big boys talk it out. No, it's fine.
Don't you worry. You're going to get your say on Leeds now in a minute. Don't worry about that. Don't let him Leeds bully.
Here we go. It's all about
Bielsa. Maka throws a comment in there. Origi is good at left back, Joe. If you're looking, or he is going to have him for about 25 million if you want. But now, look, I'm of the opinion that, Bielsa isn't going to sign some head case that's bad for team morale. He's all about, buy-in from players. He gets wingers to do jobs at fullback for him and run the legs out of them. He's unbelievable. And look, I've waxed lyrical about him. I think he's absolutely amazing. He's one of the greatest managers of all time, in my opinion. So he will get the right players into that squad and into that team. Joe Gelhardt is an interesting player as well. That could, Leeds done well on that under, what was it, under 21 or the 23s, was it? Or the youth?
Premier League 2, yeah.
Premier League 2, did a few good players. The Dutch winger, what's his name? Somerville, yeah, he's meant to be doing well there. So there's young players as well that can come in, which, will be interesting. So we touched on Matthias Cunha there, and he is a player that's been linked with Liverpool as well. Now, my personal opinion is I don't think he's Liverpool quality, and that doesn't mean he's not quality. No. I just don't think he's suited to a forward position at Liverpool or a midfield position at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think he's the type of player that he plays centre forward apparently for Hertha Berlin now, but he was, anytime I've seen him a few times, he was sort of a number 10 or playing out on the left-hand side. And I don't think he'd suit Liverpool in that sense, but it would be an interesting move for Leeds. Now, Hertha Berlin are absolutely minted, and I think they paid big bucks to get him off Leipzig. Have you heard of fair ranting for him?
I think it will be expensive. Like, I think the thing is as well, when he was initially linked, we then heard that he'd re-signed a contract. But apparently this contract was re-signed last September, but it was just kept on the down low for whatever reason. And then when the links came out, it was like, oh, he signed a new deal, by the way. I think it's like 30-40 million euros. So it won't be cheap, but I expect us to spend around 100 million like we did last summer but this time more emphasis on quality. Like it was last time, we're not just gonna flesh out, because them that are on the fringes, Alioski, Roberts, are all going to sign new deals. So it's like, I know as Premier League quality goes, they're not up there, but under Bielsa it works. So we go from having them lads starting to them being on the bench, whereas previously we were having our bench was literally your likes of Geldart that's never played first team, Somerville, Greenwood. They never got a game, 'cause they weren't up to it. Whereas this time, we'll have Roberts, who played, say, 19 times in the Premier League, Alioski, who played 24. They can then be used off the bench, So we'll just get better season on six. Fingers crossed anyway, but the plan is in place.
Excellent. And Raphinha obviously is the big one that people in the chat are certainly interested in. You can't see him moving on this summer.
Nah, it won't happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, if he has another good season and we don't get European football, then of course, if he puts out the numbers over a 38-game season again, then Man United, Liverpool, they will come knocking. And ultimately, when we only paid 17 million for him, then you're talking 5 times as much. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a nice little earner, and then we can reinvest it and find the next little gem. That's the model.
I think he's a year away from that big move as well. I think it suits him to stay at Leeds for another season. And you're right about the Leicester model, because you can fall into the trap of Southampton done this for a while. They were blocking their players from moving on, and then that stops players even going there. Whereas if Leicester are willing to bring a player in and move them on at a fair price, what they see as a fair price, players will go there, and it's a great stepping stone. So it'll be interesting to see. Thomas, what do you think about Leeds at the moment, and what do you think going forward? Do you see Raphinha staying there? Is he a player you'd be interested in at United?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people keep spouting Sancho. I've seen Raphinha this season. I've seen him do it in the Premier League, and I'd rather take a punt on him, to be quite honest with you. I like him a lot. Joe touched on it about the Bruno Fernandes thing. And like you say, I don't read into it too much. Brazilians at most top clubs anyway, and obviously former teammates as well. So, I think if he's going to go anywhere, it will be Liverpool. I'm not too sure whether he'll stay at Leeds. The lure could be just too much this season, especially if they want to spend silly money. Like someone actually just said there. It could be a big transfer, but I really don't know, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, United could be in for him, but I would think Liverpool would want him more. In terms of Leeds, if you had asked me in January, I'd have said, geez, they need a new defence altogether. But they really tightened it up. I think they probably conceded the least amount of goals at home in the second half of the season or something like that. So they really, really turned it up. So they also spent, obviously, a bit of money on Koch and can't think of the other guy's name, Llorente, as well. So, they spent a bit of money, but the full-back position is obviously the biggest one, like Joe says. Alioski, for me, he's not even a Premier League player, let alone a full-back, do you know what I mean? So he goes back to the Championship for me, or he goes abroad, Fenerbahce or somewhere like that. He's Besiktas, is it? He's looking to go to.
So it's the other one that we don't name, but
those who shall not be named in Leeds company,
But But yeah, look, I think Leeds are doing quite good. They just have to build, but not necessarily spend a fortune and not necessarily in any one particular area. Just keep progressing, keep getting a little bit better.
Yeah, it's about the right player, isn't it? It's not just about throwing money at it, where some clubs, I think, have to throw money at it. I think Leeds have to get the right player, whether it's a £20 million player if he's the right player, or a £2 million player if Bielsa thinks he fits into a system.
Do you know what comes to mind, Keith? You look at Sheffield United, similar to Leeds in that great season, obviously. Then they go and spend stupid money, on players. They spend something like 25 million on Ryan Brewster and played him about 20 times from the bench. It's stuff like that Leeds have to avoid. If they're going to sign someone, sign them to actually improve the first 11, not to just come in as a squad player. You know that way?
Yeah, indeed. Matt, I'll give you your chance now. Leeds United, how do you think it's looking for them over the summer? What do you think they need to do, or what can you see them doing?
I can't imagine them going big in the transfer window. I think for a lot of it will just be trying to retain the squad that has done so well from this season. And as much as I'd like to abuse Joe on all this, I just can't, because Leeds are, I think, a model that a lot of clubs will want to follow, because they have their system. Like, we've all seen those stats of the running distance and all that stuff. And I feel they have a very, very strong basis there, and they need to hold on to the players that they have more than they need to bring players in. And that's the likes of Calvin Phillips, Raphinha, Patrick Bamford, even Luke Ayling, who I think is extremely underrated. And there's not a whole lot that they'd have to do to improve that squad, because even if they did, I don't think they're going to be in the European mix next season, because there's some teams that are going to bounce back, and there is the big six has now become a big seven, even if you want to still include Spurs and Arsenal in that, because we're getting to very close to the stage where you can't. But I just don't think Leeds are quite at that level to get to European challenger for European football. Now, on the flip side, Bielsa isn't going to be there for much longer. Like, he's not the next 5, 6, 7 year manager. So I feel like they need to get the best that they can out of him while they have him. And that, again, is really important in holding on to those players. I think a left back will be important. I don't know who they're linked with or whatever, but Alioski, he's done a decent job there this season. He hasn't been the best. Stuart Dallas, who I often call Leeds as James Milner, just because he is that utility player and he can play anywhere. And when he does it, he does it well. But they have the basis of such a good squad. Meslier, he's error prone, but name me one big keeper at the moment who isn't. Getting Koch and Llorente into that defense more consistently next season, because I know Leeds have had a lot of injury problems there throughout the season. That midfield is strong. Calvin Phillips and Click in there, and of course Dallas been able to play in there as well. I don't think it'll be a particularly busy one for Leeds. Now, that all changes if Raphinha moves on, and if he does get a move to Liverpool. I think then they will need to heavily invest and probably get two players to kind of replace the effect that Raphinha has. And with the money they'll get in for him, if he does go, I imagine it will be quite easy to get two players in. But I honestly can't see it being too busy for Leeds.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you a question, Matt?
Yeah. Here we go.
No, right. You said we're not in the Europe. So where do we finish then?
8th. Just outside it.
Yeah. Come on.
No, look. You have.
No,
I don't think you're going to make it in. Like, you were relatively in the mix this season, but you have what you can call the Big Six now, with Leicester, with West Ham, with Everton.
We were three wins away from Champions League football. Newly promoted side.
You were 3 wins away, but you were 6 places away from it. It's not about 3 wins away.
9 points. 9 points. Yeah. We dropped in some poor games. Is what I'm saying. I think we'll be in there with it. Definitely. Don't worry about it.
Do you know what? It's actually a good point, Joe, because those games that Leeds were very, very naive, I think, against some of the bigger teams, and Manchester United is the one that jumps out at me when, I remember yourself talking about with the build up to this, it's such a big rivalry with them, so long away, and you went and just pulled down your pants and bent over for them and got absolutely steamrolled. Yeah. And there was a few games like that against the sort of top 6 teams, for want of a better phrase. Do you think that's something that I think Leeds definitely did improve on as the season went on? If they cut that out next season, there's no reason why they can't challenge for them European players. I know this conference thing is a bit of a joke, and good luck with that, Matt. But
I'd have took it.
Excuse me, it is the most prestigious tournament. It's the next big thing, Keith, I'm telling you.
If you're going to win it, you might as well win the first one, and then when everyone finds out.
It'll always be the team who won the first one.
But in all seriousness, Joe, for a team like Leeds, that's a target that if you finish, 7th in the league, and you can get a European run out of it, it's something to aim at and it's something to build on, going, you don't want to take these giant strides, because then you fall into the trap of, we need to sign this player for 60 million and this player, and then it falls down. And Leeds, more than most, have seen what happens when it falls down with overspending and the likes of that. So I think they'll be clever and they'll be a bit canny with their business this season. And there might be a few ins and outs, but they'll be low profile, and we'll be talking about them in a different light come sort of January. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's how I see it going for Leeds, and anyway in the summer. But look, it's going to be a good one for us, and I think Stuart Dallas getting a lot of love in the chat. How do you rate Dallas this season?
He's man. He's just the man. Like Matt put it perfectly. Like, I always wanted James Milner to return to Leeds United, but now we have I know it's mad to say we already have him, because James Milner's Leeds anyway, but we have that now in Stuart Dallas. Like, the guy who came in under Uwe Rosler as a right winger, and he was shocking. He couldn't take a man on, and now he's just like, well, he was that player of the season, Players Player of the Year, and he got goal of the season for that late winner against City. He's just I guess if Bielsa was to build a player, like, it would be Dallas. You know, he just does whatever's thingy, and he's a legend. He's been made captain in Northern Ireland now as well, so I just love him, man. Yeah,
he's a great player. I'm a big fan of his, and his versatility. I thought Milner would have gone there as well, to be honest, in the summer when they went back up, but they don't need him. You know what I mean? And it's a good sign for them. But look, Leeds, we'll see what happens. I think Raphinha stays. We'll see. I can't see any big offers coming in to entice him away, big enough that'll make Leeds sit up and think about it. Yeah. So we'll move on now. And Thomas, before we move on, I want you to give me a name out of it. Now, don't try and give me any family members or anyone's on your podcast or any other nonsense like that.
They're all Man U in my family, Keith. It's definitely known in this chat that's in my family anyway. Give us a look now.
Anyone that's put on that you've been interested and that you've thought was a good comment or an interest one, I'll give you a minute to bleed and have a scroll there. But we're going to move on now, and then we're going to talk about Manchester United, and it's interesting. Joe, I'll just give you a sec here to, the rivalry with Leeds and United. Liverpool and United obviously is the big one for us, but which is ourselves, it's one that, do you think you need to put a better fist of it this season than you did last season? Do you think the occasion got to you with the Manchester United games?
Keith, sorry, just to jump in there, pal. There's a comment there's Red Steve is his name, 1108. If Everton had 3 more wins, they'd still be shy. That's what he said. that's a cracker.
There you go. So, Red Steve, you are in the draw for the PS5. So send your email details or email the Daytrippers at LFC Daytrippers at gmail.com, and you can thank Thomas for selecting you on that one.
Nice one, Tom. Everton hate there.
Yeah, we can all get behind that. We can all get behind that sort of carry on. But yeah, Joe, sorry. Do you think Leeds, these games, Leeds need to maybe pick themselves up a bit for next season with that rivalry, or there's no other real rivals in the league for you? Is it that Yorkshire's not really heavily represented?
The big ones for us are Manchester United and Chelsea. Chelsea dates back to the 70s, the FA Cup.
You fucking hate Chelsea.
Yeah, we don't like them. I was gutted when they won that the other night, if I'm being honest. But there you go. But yeah, Manchester United, that's the big one for us. After waiting so long, I think the frustrating thing as well is obviously we beat them in the FA Cup first time to knock Fergie out in the 3rd round, first time lower opposition, Bedford at Stretford End. It's all count for nothing because first time we played them back in Premier League, we got beat 6-2, which was brutal. It was horrible. And it was even worse when people afterwards were saying, yeah, but they gave it a good go, and people were saying. And then we became a bit of a running joke. Oh, well, at least they gave it a go kind of thing on the social media. Yeah. But I was disappointed because I wanted to see bam, 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 flying challenges, as it were. But I think you're right. There was an interview with Calvin Phillips before the game, and he was like this. Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? And I think the players were a little bit overawed by it as well. And we seen in the second fixture the job that Calvin did on Bruno Fernandes. Like, he just bossed him out of the game, and then Bruno Fernandes went and played in Roma and scored like 3 goals and got 4 assists or whatever it was. And it was like, that's the job that kid did on him. It was really impressive. But I think we've seen that in a lot of them. When we played City at home, for the first 15, 20 minutes, they bossed us because it was like, this is Kevin De Bruyne, this is Raheem Sterling, you know what I mean? But I do think next season, that's gone now. The lads have proved they can operate at this level. You know, you've got Calvin now in the England squad. So, yeah, I would expect a much... And, of course, the fans are back next year.
Yeah,
you know,
big difference.
When Man United come to Ellen Road, trust me, that is going to be some cauldron. It is going to be bouncing from both sets of fans. And when we go over there as well, you know. So I just cannot wait for that. I was lucky enough to be in the West Brom game, but like I say, it was a good atmosphere. But when it's full, that's going to help us so much as well. Like people... Trust me, that stadium can be a bit of a cauldron. So, and that will win us games. Some players will wilt under it. So, yeah, that's the first one I'll look for. When them fixtures come out, when we get in them at Ellen Road. Let's see me. Oh, man. I love it.
That's the one. So, Thomas, Manchester United, right? Gary Neville, man of the people, comes out and gives his wish list for what United need, and it's Harry Kane, it's Jack Grealish, can't remember, it's Jaden Sancho, and someone else is on it. What do you see as the needs for Man United this summer? What's realistic, or what do they need to do? There's a lot of talk about the top end of the pitch. Are you worried about the goalie situation at all at United?
Yeah, the first thing I was going to say, Keith, is that realism doesn't exist in the transfer market with Man United. It's always fantasy football. We want the best players for the highest amount of money, and we still think that we're, the biggest club in the world that can attract the best players in the world. You know, it doesn't work like that. Realistically, United's spine has been the worst aspect of it, whether it's goalkeeper, centre-half, centre midfield, and up front. Obviously, with Cavani signing a 1-year contract, it's just a bit of paper and over the cracks for another year. If even you get a year out of him, you might only play 25 games, that sort of way. But yeah, touching on the goalkeeper thing, I mean, we've signed a top class keeper. No, I'm joking. Tom Heaton obviously has came in third choice goalkeeper. If even third choice, Romero's going to go, and Lee Grant I think has become a coach at the club, so he'd just be hanging around. One of them's going to leave, Keith. It's going to be Henderson at the head. Obviously, one of them's going to leave. I don't know who should, to be honest with you. Henderson is one of these things whereby, okay, has he market value? Of course he does. So, someone would sign him and pay decent enough money for him being English and that sort of thing. He's in the England squad. De Gea now, how much of a sell-on value has he got? I don't know. But is he a better keeper? Is there fighting the old dog, as they say? I don't really know, to be honest with you. United aren't a selling club, so are they going to look at keeping Henderson with the experience of maybe Tom Heaton there? Who knows?
It's interesting.
The Oblak, because I seen where there was a possible swap.
Seen that today.
For Oblak.
Seen that today. He came out and basically said, like, no one knows the future. If they want me to leave, we'll see what happens. I think he's basically saying if Atletico need money, he would go. That way. And would De Gea go back to Atletico Madrid? Yeah, I would have no doubt he would. But the wage is the issue, Keith.
Yeah,
the wage for De Gea.
Come on to that. Yeah, it's on the two of them, Tom. Dean Henderson as well. No, well, Dean Henderson's on over 100k a week as well. So the type of clubs that would be looking for him will be like, bit steep. But it's there you go. But it is interesting with the swap to Atletico, because the problem for De Gea was it was always Real Madrid, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was always the club that he was going to go to, and there was the infamous thing with the fax machine and all that sort of stuff. There's none of those big teams that could afford to bring in David De Gea need a goalie, and that's the issue. Like, maybe you could say, right, so Donnarumma is going to go to Juventus, so that's going to sort out Juve's goalkeeping situation. Neuer is at Bayern. He can go on for another couple of years, but you've brought in your man Newell as well to understudy him. PSG is the only one, maybe you could say. Keylor Navas is always underappreciated wherever he is. and they might look to bring in a keeper. But like Ter Stegen is at Barcelona, they're not going to want him. Courtois has turned it around at Real. I can't see them looking to spend big on a goalkeeper. So his options are limited. It looks to me like it's a swap to Atletico, PSG, or staying at Manchester United. So, you know, it'll be hard to shift them on the wages. What's he on, about 350 a week or something?
Yeah, I think he's the highest paid at the club, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's on 350, probably basic, along with everything else that comes with it. You know, clean sheets, appearance fees, everything like that. Say you're looking north of 400, 450,000. I think someone actually put in the comments there, you know, we're spending something like, you know, 600,000 a week on goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Between the other ones at the club, Romero is still there, loan spell or whatever. Lee Grant is on 50 grand a week for being a coach and a player. So it's astronomical. It's the highest wage bill in the league. Haven't won the league in 8 years. So it has to come down. But who goes, you know, once again, is it a money thing with United or is it a player thing? I don't know, Keith. To be honest, it's a flip of the coin with the goalkeeper thing for me. If Oblak comes in, happy days. De Gea has to go. Do you know that way? De Gea has to go if that's the case. You're not going to keep two keepers like that there. But Henderson fancies himself a number one now. He said publicly that he doesn't want to sit on the bench. He doesn't want to be an understudy anymore. He wants to go. So, yeah, I really don't know. I'd be actually more worried, to be honest with you, about what's in front of the hair.
Well, we can move on to that now. So, the centre of defence, I mean, look, Harry Mcguire, I don't think he's a great player, but I think as the price tag gets better and more so than his actual ability, I think he can lead the defence. I think, you know, if he had maybe a better player beside him, he's not Virgil van Dijk, put it that way. He's not able to change the whole way the defence will play, but it's the players maybe that are beside him that are letting him down. So you can Lindelof. I think Lindelof's a decent player. I think Boy's a decent player. Boy's made out with biscuits, so that's his problem.
You see.
Yeah, that's his issue. But you're then looking at Tuanzebe and all these guys coming in. Can you see a centre back being a priority at United this summer? And who was the names that you're being linked with, and who would you like?
Do you know what? Varane is being bandied about. You don't know whether, again, is a fantasy footballer or not. You know, he publicly came out and said that he wasn't happy that Zidane left. And obviously there's a contract issue there as well. I think Real Madrid have offered him a contract 4 times this season. They've sat down and he's rejected it 4 times. So Ramos, obviously, then again, he's going to stay, you know, but United realistically aren't going to go in for him now at this stage. I don't know about Varane. You know, you're talking again big money. If you want to sign him, Ancelotti's just come in as well. They had a decent partnership, you know, when he was there the first time round. So I really don't know what's going to happen at centre back, but we need one. Who do you get? You know, people have bandied about again players in the Premier League. James Tarkowski, like, not being funny, why would United sign James Tarkowski? If you want to get better, you know what I mean. He's arguably as good as Mcguire, the Lindelof. I don't rate them, to be honest with you, Keith. I don't care about the 80 million tag. I don't think they're as good as they need to be at Man United.
Varane and Tarkowski would be fucking hilarious, to be honest. If Manchester United were going in with that.
Keith, do you know what though? As bad as we are, we'd probably make Varane look like Tarkowski. That's how good we are at making, you know, good players go shit. So I really don't know. But, you know, this is the issue you have. You still have Phil Jones at the club. He hasn't kicked the ball all season and he's on 110 grand a week. You know that way. The wages is just absolutely ridiculous. And this is the Mourinho issue. He gave Phil Jones a 4-year contract and was sacked about 4 months later. Chris Smalling, again, major contracts. Eric Boye, always injured. Lindelof, rubbish. Seen him in the Europa League final, just got pushed over for the goal. So centre-back's a major issue. I don't know who you can sign, though, and who you're going to get value for money. Because I know, as Joe said, right, unlimited amount of money, big coffers, but they don't. Not with COVID and stuff like that. I think if United are going to be looking to sign, it's going to be with players going the other way. You know, if you look at Lingard and West Ham, Martial maybe going to Spurs. For Kane, it's going to be those types of deals this year for United. There won't be big money.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of stuff. It is getting bandied about that it could be the sort of offering players, and Matt didn't look too happy with that. Martial.
I was happy when he said Martial, when he said Kane.
He's made for Spurs. He's made for.
The Ronaldo and Pogba one I seen the other day as well.
Yeah, it's
Ronaldo swap Pogba.
Fantasy football won't happen.
Yeah, I've seen. I know it's silly season, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? Pogba is an interesting one though, Joe. again, I had a talk with, it was funny, a Bolton fan, he's a mate of mine, and Elmander's goal came up on the Premier League, the one where he scored against Hull, great goal. And he says he only started playing well when his contract was coming to the end. And it's Paul Pogba in the skies. It's the very same thing. He knows his contract's coming up, the Euros is coming up. His agent all of a sudden now is best mates with the club again, and he's looking for a big bumper pay deal, or else he's going to go. It's just, it's a roundabout that's never going to end. But Ronaldo will never come back to United, as long as we're watching them anyway.
I think it's I think PSG or something for Ronaldo, or he goes to America or something like that. I think and it's not. I don't think Ronaldo goes anywhere that, I'm not saying it pads the stats, but that he's not going to win trophies. I think he goes. He's not going to a Manchester United, to a project where he's not there. Who's to say he won't push them on and be that? But he went to Juventus, and Juventus had won 6 titles in a row or something like that. It was a one-horse town. He'd go to PSG, just my opinion, and hoover up legs. That's how I'd see the Ronaldo thing going.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
The midfield's an interesting one, because Solskjaer, he went for the majority of the season with the sort of Fred McTominay, and the last time you were on, Kev, we spoke about Donny van de Beek and not being able to break into the team. Do you see any movement in there, or do you think it's just going to be the midfield is sort of set? Pogba stays or Pogba goes. Does it rely on him moving on, or do you think they'll do some business in midfield? Because I haven't seen many linked.
Yeah, do you know what? United are second favourites behind Chelsea to sign Declan Rice. And I know everyone is talking about, he's an ex-Chelsea player and he's this and that. The only thing I will say is Lingard is going to have a lot to do with that deal. Moyes came out and said, obviously, that they were hopeful of keeping him. United are going to look at him and say, right, if we can get Rice plus Lingard, cash deal, that could give us the chance to sign him. But it'll be down to Rice whether he stays. Look, they're in Europe next year. He might say, I'm happy for the year. Captain West Ham into Europe. Not many players are going to be able to say that at the end of their careers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he would be the one for me. He'd be my number one player. I think that's the most problematic area with United is that number 6. You don't need to play with 2. If you play with one of them, you can play Pogba and Fernandes, you can play Greenwood and Rashford and your centre forwards. You know what I mean? You can go at teams. Saul Niguez off Atletico Madrid. More people are talking about him again. It's like the it's like the Wesley Sneijder thing. Yeah. These players just don't go away. Every year they come up again and again for United to sign. And again, I don't see any real truth to it other than journalists just looking for a name in the transfer raffle. Throw a name out this week to sign for United. So, but
make one stick and then they live off that. Then
that's what it is. That's what it is. I have to say I like Declan Rice a lot. I think he's the type of player that he'd allow other players just to start playing. I think Joe touched on it earlier on. Calvin Phillips is marking the likes of Fernandes out of a game. Fernandes drops nearly to the centre back to pick the ball up. If you've Rice there, he can kind of drive forward himself. He pushes the team back. I actually looked at Man City there, Champions League final, just going side note, and not one of their midfielders dropped deeper than Chelsea's forward. Every single one of them pushed on forward. If you look at Matic, Fred, McTominay, they're basically playing centre half for United, and that's where we're lacking it. We need a number 6 that is a little bit more clever and a little bit better technically than ones we have at the minute. So that's my number 1 position, is a number 6. Whether it's Rice, people are saying Tielemans, you're not going to get him now, not a chance. The amount of money he's going to cost. Yeah, and the amount of money it costs as well, Keto. You're talking 100 million, 80 to 100 million for someone like him, with how good he is. So remains to be seen, though.
Yeah, and then the forward positions where all the traction, it's Jaden Sancho. Yeah. He's the name that is constantly, that won't go away. I know Harry Kane, we spoke about Harry Kane, and that rumour is there. But Jaden Sancho seems to be the one. Is getting Jaden Sancho, do you think?
Yeah. I think this
on that.
Yeah, I think this year is the one he's going to come. Last year we were priced out with a move. There's a big deal there the last 2 days. Sancho signed. Sancho's agreed personal terms he did last summer. That's not the issue. The issue is that they wanted £120 million for him during COVID and all of that. The summertime, there was no way he was going to sign for that sort of money. This year now they reckon it's going to be closer to 70 million to 80 million, which is probably more realistic as well, to be honest with you, for his talent. I really don't think we need him. Joe touched on it earlier. If you sign Jaden Sancho, where does Mason Greenwood go? Mason Greenwood's arguably as good a player as he is. You know, the season he came into United, 17 years old, scored 19 goals. Last year, obviously, the England thing affected him coming into the season, and he obviously had some personal issues with a friend and stuff like that, committed suicide, and there was a lot of personal problems there. But then you look at him at the end of the season, he scored 7 goals from April to the end of the season, more than any other player in the league. So he's starting to hit form again. So I just don't know with Sancho, to be honest with you, whether he's the right thing, but it looks like that he is going to sign, definitely.
Yeah, you can.
Harry Kane, not going to happen.
For you.
No, it's not going to happen. I'd love it, but it's not going to happen.
Matt's happy about that. So you can see the action for United being maybe you think it should be at the back end of the pitch, but it's probably going to be up in the top end just to appease fans, and that's
Again,
the way United are run these days.
Just about to say, it's just a fashionable signing. Sancho, give him the number 7 jersey or whatever, make a big song and dance about it, and it'll please a certain element of the fans. But real fans realise that you're papering over the cracks. We signed players like this before, Keith. Like in the same summer, we signed Darmian, Schneiderlin, Daly Blind, Eric Boye, all these players. We signed Di Maria, and that's all people remember. We also signed 4 other players that were shit, that were all getting 100 grand a week. So it's really about the right players this time round, but it has to be the spine of the team, back to front.
That's it. Joe, what do you think about United? Do you think they need to do much work, or can you see them doing the wrong work with the way they're set up? How do you think they go about it?
Yeah, I'd agree there. The Sancho one, like you said, I really rate Mason Greenwood. I really, really rate him. I know he's been took out of the England squad, but I've seen a lot of fans on Twitter like, why is he even there? I was like, no, don't watch this. This kid's good, man. He will do bits. But for me, it's centre-back, right? Someone alongside Mcguire. I actually don't mind Mcguire, lads. I don't. Honestly, I think it's mad, really, because I've seen a Liverpool fan, actually, from this parish, I forget his name, say it's mad how one decent centre-back getting taken out of your side can have such an impact, because I think since Mcguire came out, you hadn't kept a clean sheet or something like that in a game. Yeah. And I was like, right, okay. I forget who it was now, but it was one of the lads from here. And he's been so integral to. He's not going anywhere. He's the captain. I don't think he's that bad personally. So you need someone to partner him. I don't think Lindelof is that guy.
Rubbish.
Aaron Wan-Biscuits and Luke Shaw, they're decent. Luke Shaw's arguably been best left back in Europe. It's that I don't mind McTominay, to be honest, but Fred, not for me. So
I agree. McTominay has the point of he has what's about him to play in the Premier League, doesn't he? He's kind of that strength, but is he Man United's midfield? That's always the question I ask myself, and he's not. Is he a squad player?
Do you know what, though? Do you not think, though, at Man United, like, I always found it mad, like, players like John O'Shea and Darren Fletcher, I just think if they were at any other football club, it's just not working.
I was just about to say,
worked at Man United.
He's your Darren Fletcher. He knows the club and all that sort of thing, and they give you everything. But he doesn't start every week, and he doesn't start in big European games. That's the difference, I think,
The problem, I think, is he's your best midfield player, and he shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? He shouldn't be the best sort of midfield option. I know Bruno's a midfielder, but he's more attacking. Like, I think when McTominay is the number one choice and it's who's partnering McTominay, you probably do have an issue. What about up top, Joe? Do you think they need to do stuff up top, or would you agree that the Cavani, Rashford, Greenwood?
No, they need to strike. Cavani can't play 38 games, can he? That's why the Kane's the one in it,
Don't do this, Joe.
They'd have to go big for a Haaland or whatever. I don't know who's ready to come in and fill, but like your man said, it doesn't look like they're going to happen. But I don't understand the Sancho one, because then you just putting more players in the positions that you've already got adequate cover in. It just don't make sense. But it's the central striker in it, because Cavani's shown he's levels, man. Like, it's mad, really. Because I remember when he was signed as well, that felt like a bit of an appease the fans, because he was actually available like 2 months prior, and they got it done on the last day, and it was like, what are we going to do? Let's just sign Cavani. But it ended up being a good move, because some of the goals he scored were unbelievable. His movement's unbelievable. You need someone ready or to learn off him. And Martial is pants. Like, the guy's gash. Like, I just don't get it. You know, he's not good.
He'd be brilliant at Spurs next season. That's the only thing I'd say. He'd be brilliant at Spurs, you know.
And Rashford
You'll get your say, man.
He'll definitely turn around.
Do you think Rashford will ever be that central guy? Because he said he wants to be one, will he?
Never. I think the plan with Sancho is that Greenwood becomes that. But I don't see that in Greenwood either. No, you know, I don't see. He's not ruthless. He has no physical presence. He is that modern, wide player. You know, we need a Cavani, and I know that sounds stupid, but we need a player like that. I'm not even going as far to say I actually like Calvert-Lewin. I like the type of player that he is. His build, the types of goals he scores. He's that type that United need. Selling Lukaku was the biggest mistake Solskjaer ever made. Because now Lukaku would be perfect. You know that way. But look, that's gone. But I agree with
Chelsea, you know.
Yeah.
Lukaku goes back to Chelsea.
Yeah,
be serious bit of business. Might you could be off the hook here. They're looking to swap Martial for Calvert-Lewin now, so you might be okay.
Go ahead, that's fine. I'll fully support this.
We'll be looking for money off everything.
Yeah, Matt, how do you see United? Do you think they're Sancho away from really challenging next season, or do you think there's still a bit of work? Do you think this season may have been a false dawn in a way?
I've said it the whole season. I do think United's position in the table was, I use the word fraudulent, which may be a bit harsh, but on a normal Premier League season and a decent Premier League season, that United team doesn't finish second. The only reason they have done it is because it's Liverpool with all their injuries. It's Chelsea with Frank Lampard in the first half of the season, who, by the way, thanks to Frank Lampard. It's Spurs with a season where Jose Mourinho has been sacked. It's not a good Premier League season. City were far and away the best team, but you're looking at the gaps in that United team. It's not one that will be consistently finishing second in the Premier League, and it's not one that in any time soon will be challenging Manchester City for any trophy, to be honest. And I'm not just saying this because I want Kane to say, but a striker is the last thing United need. I think getting Cavani down for a 1-year deal was the best thing they did, because they can focus in this transfer window on the other positions. They need a centre-back, they need a holding midfielder, they need a right winger, and maybe even a little bit more as well. So if they went for Kane and splashed their whole budget on that, I think that is the worst thing they could do. And it could have that kind of feeling of, well, they're doing that to appease the fans and to get this marquee signing, get the best striker in the Premier League and try and build on that. But Mcguire, I agree with Joe. I think Mcguire is decent. I think he's a good centre-back. I think we saw when he was out injured this season that he does more for that United team than we noticed. And I'll hold my hands up and say the exact same thing happened to me with Jordan Henderson at Liverpool. I was kind of on the fence about him, but as soon as he was missing, or as soon as he stepped into those centre-back positions, you see how much you needed him against Southampton, for example. Some of those players, when you're not there, you miss them more. So I think Mcguire is a good kind of man to that defence around. Lindelof isn't it, Bailly isn't it, whatever young centre-backs they have there aren't there. But then you do have to ask the question, what centre-back can come into that team and actually improve it? Because like Thomas said, you could bring in Raphael Varane and he could be useless. He could turn out to be like James Tarkowski, and that is the problem that Man United have. It's a problem that I think a lot of teams in the Premier League have at the moment, but it seems to be more prominent in this United side. Then you're looking at that midfield position, and when they start McFred in the big games, there's issues there to be had. I do like Scott McTominay. I feel like that game against Leeds, and I love to bring this up, Joe, but when United beat Leeds 6-2, because they did, the freedom that McTominay had in that game, of course, it looks a lot better when he goes and scores 2 goals in the first 3 minutes, but I don't think he needs to be that kind of that metronome at the back, or the one kind of keeping things ticking over, because there should be a good enough defence in that United side that one of their holding midfielders can be a bit more adventurous and can go forward a bit. And if you get a Declan Rice or someone who could just be that stalwart in there that can drop between a centre halves if needed, allow the fullbacks to push on, I think United will be so strong offensively. And maybe they won't need that right winger signing if they can commit the extra man to that attack in McTominay. But a Declan Rice obviously would be a brilliant signing for them. And I think Sancho was written in the stars. I think he'll be a United player this season. But as much as you can say a centre-back, a centre midfielder and a right winger will improve this United side, it depends on who they get, and it depends on how they acclimatise to the United system, because you simply cannot predict with United. But look, I don't think they are a second place team in the league yet, but a good transfer window, and I think they could pull away from the likes of Arsenal. And look, we could end up back with a big four. It could just be City, United, Chelsea, and Liverpool fighting it out for the top 4 every season. Leicester maybe thereabouts. Spurs, Arsenal, Everton, West Ham, Leeds aren't going to be up there. So I think there is a good chance to kind of pull away from the rest of the bunch, but they really need to get the next couple of windows right. And is Solskjaer the man? I think is a question that will be asked if this window doesn't go well for them.
And actually touching on that, Matt, as well, obviously there's a new hierarchy at the club as well. I know John Murrow was there before and that sort of thing. Darren Fletcher coming in as technical director. I don't actually see what he's going to bring to the team. He's never been a technical director before. Yeah. It looks like a job for the boys, and people have this feeling like he's a guru and this sort of thing. He's nothing. He's actually, he brings no experience to the role. People are expecting us to sign worldies. So yeah, that just to touch on that as well. People think it's going to have a massive influence. It's not.
They were linked with Monchi there recently for that director of football, and Edwin van der Sar, you know what I mean? These guys that are sort of top of the range. Exactly. What's his name? Ocampos at Lille and that. Yeah. And it's Darren Fletcher that gets the nod. So it's very interesting. Lads, I've kept you a long time. So before we finish up, Ashley Lawrenger's asked, genuinely curious to hear what these guys think of Liverpool's needs in the market. So I'll quickly ask you, Matt, what do you think Liverpool need to do this summer to improve?
Oh, can you hear me? I think my connection has gone a bit there.
Yeah, no. Did you hear it? What do you think Liverpool need to do?
It's a really tough one to kind of figure out, because the basis of a very good squad is there for Liverpool, but what you don't want to run the risk of is that kind of system and that squad becoming stale, and people kind of figuring them out a bit, which I think isn't. You probably need to do more than figure Liverpool out to really get them on a day when they are strong. There's not much in that 11 that I think you can genuinely improve when everybody is fit, but I think it's just about fine tuning the kind of the lower options that you have, and there is squad depth there. But when you're missing 6 centre halves, things start to become a bit thin in there. I don't think Liverpool need any starters. You could argue Bobby Firmino probably isn't the best man to be in that number 9 position. I know Liverpool fans love him, and I don't want I don't want to annoy Liverpool fans like I did to Leeds fans a few weeks ago. But I think maybe getting an improvement in there for Bobby Firmino could be, if you want to improve that starting 11, the best way to go. But aside from that, just bring in squad players. The like the Shaqiri, Origi, even Oxlade-Chamberlain probably aren't at that level where they can step in and keep the squad at the same kind of level. And look, having that competition there could. I've heard Liverpool fans say to sell Mane. I really don't think that's the way to go. But bring in someone who could compete for that spot. Is it Jeremy Doku playing with Anderlecht at the moment? He could be a cheap signing, and he could really be a player for the future who could challenge there, and maybe the same in the midfield. But I really don't think there's too much for Liverpool to do.
Tom, what about yourself?
Harry Kane, Keith. Don't see why a number 9. I think Liverpool this season we've seen, you know what I mean? Mane is a smashing player, went through a bit of a confidence issue, getting himself back now. Why would Liverpool not want to try and sign Harry Kane? They won the Champions League a couple of years ago, won the league last year. They're the best defender in the world. They have a midfield packed full of quality. Salah speaks for himself. Go and sign Harry Kane. I don't see why it's only United and City.
I don't think they'd pay the money. I don't think they pay the wages, to be honest, that Harry Kane is looking for. Personally, that's my take on it. But I think, Bobby Firmino seems to be the upgrade that everyone's talking about. Joe, what about yourself? Where do you think Liverpool need to improve? And I assume it's not with a Raphinha.
No. I agree with Matt. I don't think it's so much that... I think you'll get Tielemans for Wijnaldum. I think that's the one. I think Tielemans will go to Liverpool. Kanate is a brilliant signing. Yeah, I mean, it's all about getting your players fit. You know what I mean? Him and Virgil van Dijk, you're going to concede goals, man.
Young as well, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah, he's only 20.
He'll learn off Van Dijk as well.
It's amazing. I think it's all right. Yeah, I don't know why you didn't do it when you needed it.
You know what I mean? The problem there was, he's the one that we wanted, and I'm convinced of that at the time, but we had Leipzig in the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? We drawn them, and that was after the window. So even though we knew who we were going to be playing them, it was till the window was closed. So there was no way they were going to sell us Ibrahim and Kanate, even though we didn't play against us. But they weren't going to do that. So I think that's why they brought in the options that were never going to be long term, and went for Kanate a forced opportunity in the summer. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's them two, isn't it? Them two next year, and then. What I found mad though is because this isn't to think. I know we're all fickle as fans and all that sort of stuff, but I remember being here getting to, I can't remember who it was, were telling me Nat Phillips and Kabak were the best thing since sliced bread. Kabak's being put in the bin and Nat Phillips is available to buy. So I was like, what's going on here? It is what it is, but I thought it was quite funny. But yeah, Tielemans, Kanate already in the door. Get everyone back fit and just sell Origi and Shaqiri. Like,
exactly.
They're just loitering about. Like, it's all about depth, right? I was speaking about it for my club. When you keep turning to Shaqiri, who looks like he just needs to lose weight. I know he just always looks overweight for me. And Origi, I guess he gave you one of the best moments and all that, but come on now, they're not. And what's funny is everyone always goes like Liverpool fans, Origi and such for this player, and it's like no one wants them. That's why they're still there, man.
Look, Origi, we caught lightning in a bottle. I say this: that 6 months of Origi was peak Origi, and we should have sold him that summer, and now we can't give him away. Jaden Shaqiri, I think the weight issue with him is the hair transplants after adding 10 pounds onto him. But we do have a lot of deadwood that we just can't get rid of, and they're always injured as well. And they're no use. Squad depth, if they're always injured, is no use. Liverpool learned that the hard way this summer, this season. Sorry, that it was, availability is the best ability that we can get in that Liverpool squad. So it'll be interesting to see how we go about it. So thanks for your opinions on that. Before we finish up, because I've kept the lads a mighty blade, nearly 2 hours job tonight. But with regards, so we've got our 3 winners tonight was Red Steve, LUFC, and A_C_5814.
One is that
what's your middle name, mate?
What size is that box?
Email the LFC Daytrippers at gmail.com. Give you the details there, and we'll sort out where LUFC it's a t-shirt, and then the PS5 draw for the other 2 guys. And also, if you comment on this show afterwards, not in the chat here, but on YouTube comments, if you go into the comments and you put PS5 into the comment there after the show is finished, we're going to select people as well to go into a draw at the end of the week. So anyone who watches or shares the show, anyone comments in there, we'll randomly generate some of the comments out of there and put them into the draw. So we'll have a big draw. The draw is going to be for all our subscribers, whether they watch the live shows or not, but we're going to have also more chances of getting in. So if you do that, there's more chance of getting in and winning the PS5. By the time we get this PS5 away, the PS6 will be on the way out. But hell and ever, we'll do our best with that. So look, I've really enjoyed tonight's show, lads. It's great to have you on to get the opinions of other teams, because we can talk about Liverpool all the time on here, and it's the same shit. We're repeating the same stuff all the time. So it's good to get the other views on. So, Joe, thanks very much for coming on and joining us. Where can the folks get you now? What's the new show?
Yeah, it's the Just Joe Football Show. So it's very Leeds generated, of course, but I do like top flight news as well, and just loads of transfer guff, and I've got loads planned for the Euros as well. So, just if you ever subscribe to All Leeds TV, which I know a few of you did, like I'm not there anymore. Stay with them, of course. They're still my friends, but come over and subscribe to my channel, Just Joe Football Show. Nice
Top stuff. We're a big fan of Joe and around these parts, so get on and subscribe to his channel. Matt, yourself, where can the guys find you? And thanks for coming on as well and giving us the Spurs view. You got rinsed a bit tonight, but you took it well.
Keith, it's every night, it's every day, it's my life. I'm used to it. But look, thanks for having me on. I'm always love popping on here.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'll never turn down an opportunity to talk Spurs, but Matt Hayes Tottenham blog on YouTube. You'll probably see me crying in the next couple of days on Pochettino's announcement. So if you think you find that funny, head over and hit that subscribe button. Look, make sure to show the Daytrippers the support, bringing you top class content every night. They deserve it here for sure.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks for that, Matt. And again, Matt's stuff is great. We've started to do a lot of crossover with Matt, and it's always good stuff as well. So thanks again for coming on tonight, Matt. And my Thomas, Meow China, where can people find you?
The Offside Trap podcast, Keto, on YouTube. Again, just wrapped up our kind of Premier League roundup show, obviously with the season finishing. Looking at the Euros now for the summer. We're doing 10 shows over the 4 weeks, kind of focusing on England mainly, unfortunately. But for Scotland to win, we might have a PS5 to give away. We never know. But the Offside Trap podcast.
And that's not Manchester United specific, is it? It's sort of Premier League.
All over. We have a Leeds fan, United fan, Chelsea fan. So it's all in, Keto,
Good stuff. So get on and support the guys, everyone. It's, it's good stuff. I've enjoyed having them all on tonight, and I look forward to doing it again as the summer goes on. I'd like to get this, get your opinions on how our summers are going as and when it happens. So look, I'll leave it there. I'll let you get back to you as our significant others, and before they fuck you out, because we've kept.
I'll be back a European champion, lads.
That's it. That's what we like to see, Joe. That's the optimism we love to see. But anyway, look, this has been your Transfer Agenda show. I've been your host, Keith, and I'll bid you all good night.